Hello and aloha, God is most glorious to all the people of the earth. This video continuing the last few videos directed really to the people of China, member of the CCP, because in the past religions they have not been addressed directly to, but naturally they are part of the very important part of the humanity. And I, as the elder, on behalf of Baha'u'llah, trying to do that. It is not that this video is not for others, but purposely, particularly for them, because I want them to understand God and divinity the way it should be. And today is what, Saturday, time is 9:30, 12th of August. I just finished up a very difficult job in the last 8 days. So the tiredness is still in me. So to recap what we have said so far, I'm just giving you a quick summary, highlight. I've discussed that us and anything that's in this universe, any material things that we see, it has a metaphysical reality. Whatever that is in this world is manifestation of something that is not physical. Even a cup, even this camera. And the best reason that everyone in the world should understand, can understand, that this is the truth is the fact that there are designs in this world. Without the design, we cannot make a cup, a camera, or a house, or a helicopter, or anything. And the design is manifested through the thing that we make, or by a piece of paper, or by electron and computer. Design itself is not clear what it is. It's very important. Without it, you can't have things. Yet, it is not a natural thing to say what it is, but you can't deny that it exists. Without it, you can't have things. Of course, the second thing immediately is that design, it must have a designer. And we people are the designer of these designs. Since design is completely not material, the designer would have to be also not material. Things are coming out of brain, but just like coming out of a computer. If the things comes out of a computer, it doesn't mean the computer does it. It's the person behind the computer is causing it to happen. This body is like a computer. Somebody causes it to happen. That's us using this computer to connect to this world. Also, explain that beside what we make, we see there are other things, such as trees, such as planets, such as suns, such as galaxies, or animals, or viruses, that we don't make. It seems that they are not made by designs or by thinking. Because usually if you design something and you have a design for it, you can repeat that. You can make exactly the thing again one more time. But as the German philosopher Hegel observed, there is no repeat in the universe. The universe is not mechanical, it's dialectical. So, by the same token, we have to think that, we have to assume that, the maker of the things that are natural, because they cannot repeat, because they're not the same, and their shape is not geometrical the way we are. Every one of them is unique. It must have not come through their thinking or design. But surely somebody wanted it to be. Therefore, there must be something bigger than us who's not thinking to make things, but he's willing it. Something that we can see the traces of that in us. Maybe the sign of the maturity of mankind is to reach to that capacity that he wills something that it happens. As I said, some of the typists, they talk to you while they're talking to you, they're typing. It seems there's an eye on their fingertips. Or when we drive the car, confronting an accident or a situation, without thinking, we instinctively push the pedal to stop it. That's just a very dismal little sign that we could do things without thinking. It's possible for us. So, therefore, I call that big one a prime wheel because I can see he's thinking, he's cannot be a designer, just we call him prime wheel. In the Baha'i faith, the first wheel. And that wheel is in us too. We do have that wheel, it's the same wheel. In that case, we have to think that psychologically, a person such as him, such as her, who's causing these things to come, he would be undoubtedly an intellectual, intelligent being. And he would come to visit us or somehow communicate with us. And again, logically seems the best way to communicate with us is to assume some kind of a form like us. It's like in a story of a father and a mother and a child, the mother and a child. When a child is born, he can't speak, of course. So mom and dad, they try to talk baby talk. It seems baby enjoys that. Meaningless sounds and words that yet causes the communication with the baby. In the same pattern, this God, this prime will, whoever it is, he must be using that kind of a method to communicate with us. And who would be the best than to be a human being? Because if it comes in the form of an animal, we don't understand it. If it's come in the form of a plant, we don't understand it. If we have to understand him, he has to speak our language. He has to be somehow like one of us to see who he is. So basically, we have to look for a person, a persona, shall we say. But who would that be? We do have some historical records, such as Jesus Christ, such as Muhammad, or Rama, especially in India, or Quetzalcoatl down in Mexico, among the Mayans, or Buddha in Bengal, that his religion went all over the China. But these historical records are very vague. It has too many superstitious stuff embedded in it, inserted in it. It just doesn't go to today's mankind with all the things that we did. It's kind of insulting to believe those kind of things as a powerful force. It's too mythological. It's too fancy. That's not a reality. So, I remember actually, I was maybe grade 9 or 10. I was into Baha'i faith then. Yeah, I was a Baha'i, but I wasn't registered yet. And I think I had some discussion with my cousin or a couple of other people one day in a night school, because my father wouldn't want me to go during the day school. He says, I don't have money, I have to work during the day. So I was working in a construction as a helper, and in the night I would go to school. So during the intermission with our classes, I think we were on top of a bridge and we had this discussion. Then the discussion between the kids, it says, well, if somebody comes and says, I'm God or I'm a prophet of God, what do you expect him to do? But everyone says something, I want him to stop the river or jump on the cloud or turn a tree to walk or strange stuff. I told him that I would ask him something else. If he does that, I believe him. They said, what is it? I told him I'm going to ask him that. Turn a seriously bad individual, a bad son of a bitch, turn him into a good man. He becomes nice to people. Let's say turn Putin into some good person, or Donald Trump, these two cousins, or Hitler. Make the Shah of Iran to come talk to people in the streets in a humble way, real way. So it's not a picture, it's real. Can he turn a bad man into a good man? That would be, I said, a miracle. And I'm 66 now. I stand on this point. And I'm thinking that if somebody comes and says I'm from God, and he does all kind of strange things, I would tell him that, well, 6,000 years ago, in the earth we didn't know these things. And if you would have come there and did, a lot of people would follow you, because you did all of that. Without understanding you, without being able to know why are you here, without communicating with you, without even liking you, you just astound them with this miraculous power. They're astounded. They might even believe you and follow you blindly. But me, I want to understand you. I want something understandable. And I would ask him, the miracle I'm expecting from you to turn a serial killer, a really bad person, into a good person. Can you do that? You see, that's what I'm expecting from God, from the prime will on the earth. But the reality is that we don't have, except this mythical records of the past, any pattern, to become some kind of a criteria to do it. But today, fortunately, there is Baha'u'llah, which means glory of God. That was only a couple hundred years ago, less than 200 years ago. In Iran, he comes and he says, I'm the manifestation of God. So I'm going to compare him with other people to see what superiority he has to others, what's distinct, what is different. Because if you talk about martyrdom, if you talk about knowledge, Nelson Mandela has done that too. Gandhi has done that. Abraham Lincoln has done that. So many great social leaders in mankind have done those things. They've gone to their death for the sake of the truth they believed in. So Baha'u'llah has to produce something different, something bigger than that. You know. So I've done this before, long time ago. But after so many years, I'm going to rephrase the same things, add and edit some of the stuff, and I came up again with 9 things that I'm looking for. Because Baha'u'llah has done all of those things, as I said that. In that case, I know Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and Abraham Lincoln have done that too, you know. A cause, they've done that. The first thing I think it distincts him from others that he says he's manifestation of God. No good man has said that. Lincoln hasn't said that. Gandhi hasn't said that. Nelson Mandela hasn't said that. No other great man that has done honesty, service to mankind have claimed such a thing. But Baha'u'llah is claiming, I am the manifestation of God. I am the prime will of God in here. I am the big one, the one all of you are coming from. I am the great grandfather of mankind. and everything else. So many more. And that persona says this. Nobody else says that. Number two, that's again distinct, is that Baha'u'llah has been prophesied. And don't think this something again conjecture or it's real. Baha'u'llah has been prophesied by all these nations in the past. Even Buddha calls him Amit Abha. Abha is directly derivative from the word Baha, means more glorious, more Baha. That's what Abha means. And Amit is God. And he says it comes from the east, from the west, he says. And all the Buddhists, staunch Buddhists, they know about that. You see? Hindus, they call him the 10th avatar. And that's the strange thing, because they use the word avatar. Hindu religion has no messengers. There's no message. They call themselves avatar, or in their own language, uttar, which means manifestation. They say that Vishnu manifests himself in the form of a man, like Rama, like Krishna. He doesn't send him. And Baha'u'llah exactly says the same thing. He doesn't say, I am a messenger of God. He says, I am the manifestation of God. Arabic, he says, I am the madhar. Persian accent, mazhar, a place where God appears in. I don't want to get into the details of it, but there's all over the computer. Prophecies of Jesus Christ about the Baha'i faith. Go Google it. They exactly give time, date, and everything. Jesus says, I'll come back in a different name, not Jesus Christ. It's written on the stone. Then it says, in the name, glory of God, which is Baha'u'llah. He says in the Bible, I come from the east, in the land of Media and Persia, which is Persia. And Media, the land of the Medes, it's Iran. And he says he's coming on 1844. Jesus says. They ask him, when are you coming? He says, whoever read Abomination of Desolation by Daniel, chapter 8. Daniel says 2,300 days, which is the day in a year. In the Bible, so it's 2,300 years from Daniel. And Daniel to Christ was 70 weeks. From the end of the life of Jesus, and 69 weeks from the beginning. Every week 7 days, times 7. That's 484 years for the first coming of Jesus. Subtracting that from 2,300 years, it becomes 1844. Peter in the New Testament, he says they use the word 1,260, which is from the time of Muhammad, from the Arabic year. That's again exactly 1844. But there's more. You go in Mexico. I went to Navajos. I saw the hut that they have in their prophecy. The elder comes, this is the prophet, the manifestation, with 12 feathers, which is 12 principles of Baha'u'llah. The Hopi Indian, they call him Baha'i. Ni means people, people of Baha. Yucatans, they went with the number 19. I saw some of the temples, they were 24 and 19 things on it. So this is a second thing, it's not coincident, believe me. This is just so briefly breaking the ice. There are many, many books written about this. You can investigate it. No one has ever been prophesied so distinctly at our age except for Baha'u'llah and the Baha'i faith. The third thing is very amazing that I was surprised at my age, which would be about 50 years ago in Iran. I saw a man, Baha'u'llah, 200 years ago in Iran and in the planet Earth, has brought some serious, so important teaching about the social betterment of mankind. You can't talk about the equality of man and woman right now in Iran. In the West it wasn't. Nobody was voting for women. Women were not equal. Baha'u'llah not only says man and women are equal, he puts into the practice that the Baha'is, long time ago, they vote for man and woman both to be into the Baha'i administration and the affairs of the Baha'is. This is not just a conjecture or some kind of ideas or proposal. It's being practiced by the Baha'is, equality of man and woman, which later on people found out. For example, it says religion has to be according to science and logic. Abdul says if religion is not according to science, it's mere imaginations. Well, that's fantastic. None of the religious people in the past, they would accept this. They didn't like what Darwin said, what Louis Pasteur said, what Galileo said. No, lo and behold, Baha'u'llah says no. The science and religion have to go together. For example, it says all kind of prejudice has to be removed from people. A prejudice about the colors of skin, about the language people speak, about the religion that they have, about the genders, even about the age. These are causes of disunity, he says. It has to be removed. For example, he orders that we have to speak an auxiliary language besides our mother tongue, which has become now English. And he said something that we still haven't done, that we're going towards is, he wants mankind united in a form of a world government. Not to get rid of the national governments or even provincial or city, but something more than what we have in order to confront the real problems of environment, of sudden thing might come from space, of pandemics, and so many things. We haven't got that. Isn't that make sense? That so many things, the so-called man, apparently, by his claim manifestation of the prime will of God, has said so many things that all it has come true. So why don't we talk about him? Why Hollywood doesn't make a movie about him? Nothing, isn't it? So what are we, prejudiced about this? Or just simply not mature enough yet, like children, to know what's right even for us? So this was very amazing for me, that an Iranian that hasn't gone to any school, doesn't speak any language other than Persian and Arabic, wasn't read any of these books in the West, could have not read it, not been translated. How would he come up with these things? It's very amazing. And to all around the world. But the single biggest, most important things for me was his influential power in the people. Not just the people of Iran, people of everywhere. From Japan to England to the United States, in Africa, India, Iran, and everywhere. How would a person affect all these peoples with such an influential power he has? Yes, we have influential power that they have done a lot of physical things for us. Fix our body, disease, inventions, affecting us in many ways. And there are a lot of those. And people who have impacted our social understanding, society, like Mao Zedong, like Lenin, like Karl Marx, like Nelson Mandela, like Gandhi, like great Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and so on. This we have seen too. But no one has been able to influence people to do so much sacrifice to change spiritually. Again, you have to Google it if you want, to see the Baha'is, early Baha'is in North America. Why would North American would listen to a person in jail in Turkish Empire? It's most amazing. One of them is Martha Ruth. It's too bad Americans, they don't know her. She's the most majestic American of all time, beside Lincoln and George Washington. She spent all her life going to teach in all the countries. She would go translate the books, Baha'u'llah, New Era, go on the radio with talks and goes from one country to another, even went to China, even came to Iran. All in the name of Baha'u'llah. Queen Mary of Romania. No movie about her, no documentary about her. One of the most fantastic monarch in Europe. She becomes a Baha'i. And she published 9 letters, I think, that exactly says why Baha'u'llah. People in Iran, the women in Iran that are nothing. Imagine what women are in Afghanistan right now. 200 years ago in Iran, you could not see the face of any woman. But in there is a Tahira. The French, they call him the Joan of Arc of Iran. The Joan of Arc of Iran. They used to make it show in Russia. People go watch. What a fantastic human being this woman was. Among all these men was the only single woman that rose to the highest degree of knowledge, that finally she was martyred in the pathway of Ba, who was the forerunner of Baha'u'llah. There's 20,000 of them. There's a stack of the history book from the floor of the villa. Every city. These are documents. This is not the history of Jesus Christ. Happened just a couple hundred years ago. There are pictures of them. Who has made people worldwide to come to this level of the sacrifice? It's mind-boggling. It's amazing, really. It's a miracle. Abdullah was in the United States, not speaking English, as a person just came out of the prison in Ottoman Empire because Ataturk came and freed all the people. American invited him. There were a few Baha'is in America. He goes at old age with the ship all the way there. You got to read it to believe it. How many thousands of Americans, they would come to churches to listen to him. Big guys, like the inventor of telephone, what is his name? Graham Bell, Admiral Perry, even the foreign minister of Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt himself come to the... Who would make American to come that close to a person? And what he goes, he says, he tells them that Baha'u'llah is the manifestation of God. He has brought in new revelations. All the religions of the past are gone now. And they say, yes, sir. To an Iranian, isn't this amazing? It's beyond belief. This influence has not been done with anybody. This is literally a social miracle. I can see it. There are thousands of things I can say about his personal power, but I just point out to his unbelievable bravery. Baha'u'llah is so brave. Imagine right now they're killing the Baha'is in Iran. If you say you're Baha'i, they kill you. Who could go there and say, I'm a Baha'i? Imagine who has the guts to go there and say, I am the Baha'u'llah. Religion of Islam is over. I am the one who sent Muhammad as my prophet. You're going to say that now? Imagine 200 years ago. Iranians were among the most fanatics of all the people in the world, even the Turkish Osmanis. And Baha'u'llah was in the prison of the Emperor, Ottoman Emperor, in a most remote place. Those days was under the territory of the Ottoman Empire, the present Israel. It was called Palestine those days. In that place, Baha'u'llah is a prisoner. And he writes a letter to the emperor. He said to him, you're a child. You're a foolish person. Try to mature up, that you do not do this transgression to us. If you come to understanding, you would leave your entire kingdom for 1 inch of the place that I am in prison with. Because all what you have will be ruined. But this will remain. He calls his kingdom like a puppet show. You know the puppeteers? He says that's who you are, a puppet. Who has the guts to talk to this dictator while you're in prison with all your family, children, and your followers? This is unbelievable guts. Amazing. And creation of this power in people. One 19-year-old boy whose name is Badi, whose father was a Baha'i, he himself wasn't. But through one of the Baha'i scholars, he turns into a Baha'i. He decides to go see Baha'u'llah all the way from Iran to Turkey, to Ottoman Empire. Baha'u'llah had a personal audience with him. A few hours maybe. He changed his boy so much that he gave him a letter, told him, go take it to the king of Iran. But remember, son, you will not come back alive. They will kill you. Do you want to? He said, yes, I will. And he took the letter to the king of Iran. Like the king was at this party, they were hunting, and he was staying outside for a few days. Finally, king got attention. He says, oh, that's boy, bring him over. And he comes and says, this is the letter I addressed to you. He says, I'm addressed? He says, yes, it's addressed by Baha'u'llah, the manifestation of God. They tortured him so much. They put a burned, blazed brick into the fire on his chest. Torture him to say, who are your friends? He said, everyone is my friend. And finally, the huge, axe they hit in his brain. What was the influence of Baha'u'llah on a child to do this? But as I said, there's 20,000 of them. A lot of records, of actual records of these people. This bravery of Baha'u'llah was very, very, very amazing, To me it was. Who is that power? Who has this kind of a power to do this? Okay? But he's also so selfless. Unimaginably selfless. Mysterious. Why is he doing this? He was literally the son of the minister of the Shah. At a young age, when he claimed this mission, people from the king, they told him that you're a brilliant man. Why are you saying these things? King wants you to continue the service of your father and become the minister. Baha'u'llah said no. Didn't accept it. What was he then after? Selfless of Baha'u'llah is very amazing. Some of the Babis, by stupid thinking, because they love Bab so much, his forerunner, they put some pellet into a gun and shot the king for the revenge. But pellet doesn't kill the king. It's like a kill the bird. They got arrested and they were killed. And they said, okay, Bab has died, we killed the Bab, and the next leader is Baha'u'llah. He's responsible. They got him, put him in chain around the neck, walked him all the way in the road from the north of Tehran towards the south where the jail is. With the procession, as it comes, all these people those days, they make lines on both sides and throw spit at him, say bad words and everything else. There's one old lady past the crowd, but she was old, could not throw the stone to Baha'u'llah because they were telling them, if you throw a stone at Baha'u'llah, you go to heaven. He's there. He's the enemy of the king, and the king is the shadow of God. And Baha'u'llah noticed that. He ordered the guards, please stop. Why? They said, I want that woman to reach to her goal. She wants to throw a stone at me. Because she thinks this is the right thing. Yes. And he stopped so the woman can throw a stone in his face. Who would do this? It's crazy. Why would he love mankind so much? And he's not like any political leader. He claims something that, of course, nobody is going to accept it. Nobody. If you ask Nelson Mandela, he says, yeah, I have a goal. I want to free these people. When he reaches his goal, so is Gandhi, so is Abraham Lincoln, so is... But Baha'u'llah knows this goal is not achievable, not at this time. But it's the truth that have to be told. Again, this level of selflessness is amazing. He never got a penny for the book he wrote. All free for mankind. He didn't want anything from anybody. He wanted the goodness of all the people, and they throw him in jail. The jail was so bad that when they entered in Akka, the old Palestine, a bird was flying when the air fell down because of the bad weather. Imagine what kind of a weather was that. Oh. But miraculous, after Baha'u'llah was there, they opened the Suez Canal, and the weather was okay. Number 7, it's an amazing thing in his writing. Usually you trace a pattern of growth, evolution in anybody. Not in Baha'u'llah. When he's young, he hasn't even claimed yet. He's writing at that time, and at that time in his old age, a couple of years before he dies. Probably 30 years difference between the two books. No one can believe which one is first book. There's no trace of evolution in his mind. He's born perfect. He doesn't evolve like us. And that is why he's the manifestation of prime will. Because he doesn't think. All his writing is like this. There's no thinking. In the night, in the prison, he would walk And the scribe had like 10 different pens on the table. As he walks and talks, the scribe writes down. When the pen falls down, he has no time to take the pen, he has to get the next pen. And they would write in shorthand. It was impossible to type it. There was no typing anyways. Shorthand, for example, for the word and, they don't say and, just say a. It's very straight. Like ordinary man cannot read, and only shorthand people can read. No thinking at all. He doesn't think to write and to say things. That's exactly what the manifestation of God, he is just like the guy who has made everything. There's a great affinity between his revelation and the nature. Nature is made out of things. His revelation is made out of words. But they have the same pattern. It's clearly the being who has made this universe and us and everything else, the same personal talkings. Doesn't follow a special type of grammar, yet it is so beautiful. Doesn't follow the exact grammar of Persian or Arabic. He could throw Arabic word in Persian, sometimes even English words, into his writing. Doesn't follow a pattern like that. This is very, very amazing, isn't it? And his revelation, exactly just as Mark was saying, it's the historical, what's that Marx says, it's a historical fact and necessity that capitalism would have to change into socialism, and socialism into communism. Baha'i faith is based on the natural necessity. Therefore, there is no force required to establish it. If man wants to live, if man can survive in the earth, either they follow him or they would reach to what he said. Canada is the #1 example. Equality of man and woman in the Western civilization. They haven't learned it from Baha'u'llah. They just reached it, but too bad somebody 100 years ago before, he was saying these things. All the teaching of Baha'u'llah is all in Canada. Even divorce. Baha'i faith, when you divorce, you have to separate 1 year before you begin to get your divorce. That's exactly the law in Canada. And believe me, you talk to the lawyers and politicians here, they would say they don't know anything about Baha'i faith. It seems it's a necessity. You will get there naturally. Somebody before that, he knew where the mankind is going. He already said this thing. Baha'i faith is a shortcut to the truth, if you like to. Looking by the appearance of Baha'u'llah, by the reason I just brought, he is the manifestation of the prime will. If you have fairness, if you are looking for a truth and answer. But all of this, it creates really the biggest questions of all. Okay, so he is the manifestation of prime will here in earth. Yes, he's coming here to help us. Okay. But question is this, what is in it for him? What makes him to do this? Why does he do this? This is my question. And I have studied this faith, not like you think. Even in the bathroom, I cannot escape. My thought goes there and thinking. Even in the sleep, before I sleep, I review and think. Everything you see, if I see a movie, I'm trying to think, what is this? In fact, I remembered. I saw the movie 2001 by the great Stanley Kubrick. You see this movie, you have to see it. It's a monolith, which means a long stone, like a graveyard stone. It was found in the moon. People go there and they find out it's sending a signal to the radio, to Jupiter and whatnot. But in the beginning it shows that it's on the earth somewhere in the middle of a lake or something, in a water in a hole. And monkeys, they go there and they touch it. And because of that they become brilliant. They evolved. It showed that they found out a stick of the wood. They took it in their hand and they went and beat the other monkeys with it. It was the beginning of intelligence. Right there I looked at the stone, I said, this is the book of God. The fellow who wrote, he never thought of that. But that's how I measure everything. Everything to me has to go there to see, is there a trace? Yeah, I see the writer, maybe not knowing, I don't know if he knew or not, but he did, they made this monolithic, this black stone who's sending a signal. But people touch it and they change, they immortalized. I thought that's the book of God. The book of the prime will that has been among us. So, I'm going to be talking to you about these questions. I've been digging into that. Why Baha'u'llah is doing what he did? He let a lot of people die for this. Not by his order, by their own willingness. That's what the Baha'i faith is. Baha'u'llah never orders somebody to serve or die for a cause, nothing like that. But they become so enthusiastic that like him they want to sacrifice. It's like a magic. It reminds me of another movie, the Golden Boy, I think, that Eddie Murphy was playing, a Chinese little boy, that the evil put him in a cage because if he would his finger on a person, it would change him to a good man. Again, I thought, this is again the prophet of God. Baha'u'llah, when it touches you, you change. Believe me, big example is myself. I know who I was and what I am now. I'm by no means anybody better than others, but if it wasn't for him, planet Earth would be in trouble because of me. He would be. I would have done something to it. But lo and behold, he leashed me, so come back. So I fell in love with him. But I'm asking these questions, and I'm gonna answer this question next video. God be with you.